Hi everyone, Ment here. Welcome to my live stream taking a look at crafting country guitar solos in the Bakersfield Sound style. We're going to be taking a look at some ideas that I've stolen from James Burton, Ralphy Mooney, Nichols, and Hamlet over the years. This is in promo for my new course, Music Theory for the Country Guitarist, Part 2. If you haven't checked out this course already, I highly recommend that you do. If you're wanting to know your fretboard better and how it applies to country guitar, so we'll want to take a look at pentatonics, double stops, bends, things like this in conjunction with the cage system. I highly recommend you check out the course. It's going to give you a better knowledge, and it's going to do it in a way that applies it immediately to common phrases, licks, and the vocabulary of classic country guitar. So check out parts 1 and parts 2 for this course. If you buy one, you get a discount on the other, so I highly recommend you take advantage of that. The links to the course will be in the description below. So we're going to be taking a look at some Bakersfield Sound ideas over an 1144 1511 change in the key of D. That's the Nashville number system for D, D, G, G, D, A, D, D. Now, I cut my finger earlier, so I'm going to try and do most of this with my middle ring and pinky finger. So if you notice I'm struggling a little bit, that's why, or if I start bleeding on the guitar. But we're going to kind of play around with some ideas in the Bakersfield Sound style where we're going to be mixing major pentatonics and minor pentatonics, focusing on nailing the flat 7 as a transition tone between changes. And we're also going to be taking a look at how we can use some double and triple stops to emulate a pedal steel sound. So this is what our example is going to sound like in context. Okay, so to play that just kind of one more time for you without the backing track a little slower so you can hear it, I've got in the key of D, okay, so that's what we're going to be working with and what we can kind of springboard off of with some ideas. So I'm thinking about my D chord C shape here, and I'm thinking about my D chord A shape here. This is where my major pentatonics are across these two shapes. So I've got D, E, F sharp, A, and B. So my first move I'm going to do a cover in the second part of Music Theory for the Country Guitarist. Just kind of walking up and then bending that E up to the F sharp, and then I'm going to grab the A note, the 5th with my pinky underneath, and while this is still bent. So I have, and you can release it there. That's a pretty common lick. So I'll go, and then I'm going to move this up a minor 3rd or 3 frets and do the same move again. So what's happening there is I'm going a major move to a minor move. Okay, so it's D major pentatonics to D minor pentatonics. And again, this is covered more in depth in the course. So I have this major starting off, minor. I'm going to release it, kind of like a Roy Nichols bend, then release. And then I'm going to kind of give this F a little nudge. It's like a blues kind of, you get the minor 3rd, just kind of putting up a quarter bend. And then I'm going to drop my C down. So I'm going to pre-bend it to a D and drop it down. And there's that Roy Nichols signature sound of dropping the 1 as a pre-bend to the flat 7. So this is all setting up my 4 chord, the G. So I have this pickup, bend, bend, and dropping. Okay? Now something you can do is just like a quick slide down from the D to C if you can't get that bend fast enough, okay? So you could go, depending on the tempo. And that's a great, great sound, okay? So that's what we're gonna be doing for the 1 chord, okay? So we have mixing major and minor. And then I'm gonna just carbon copy all of those pentatonics up into the G chord. So I've got my G chord C shape here, and I have my G chord A shape here. Okay, so I'm seeing G, A, B, D, and E, right? 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. So a common move you'll hear the Bakersfield guitarists do quite a bit is like hammer on from the 4 to the 5 and rake across the strings while they do it. You've probably heard that if you listen to those old Haggard records, where you're just kind of raking from the 3rd, 2nd, and hammering right on. So I have this like so. So I'm coming like, so just hammering on, C, pre-bend that A, that's the 2nd, down, right? And then to the G, and I've got my flat 7 right there, so I can just hit that flat 7. And that's a great stylistic sound as well, where when you're on the 4 chord, find the flat 7 of the 4 and end your phrase on that. It sounds awesome. I'll show you in another context, but we've got this lick here. So we're raking onto it, playing the 4, pre-bend, release to the 1, and then to the F. And again, you could pre-bend that F to the G and release it. It just depends on how kind of slinky you want your sounds to be with those pre-bends and releases. So I have... Okay, so kind of mixing and matching some ideas there, all right? And then I've got this first part. It's all single notes. Now I want to kind of expand that sound. So I'm going to do some steel style stuff. So the steel stuff that I use is typically in this G chord shape here, which is really impractical to play, as I always like to share. But this top part works like a charm. We've got A, D, F sharp, and D. And I'm going to situate my hands where I'm covering the D and A on the first two strings, and then I have my E on the 3rd string. Okay, and I'm just going to bend this up and do the stereotypical steel bend on the guitar. Okay, so that's just the E up to the F sharp, the 2 to the 3. So I'm going to pick it up again with this just A, D, E, your kind of stereotypical country intro. So I have this, and I'm just going to kind of rake across it. I can go down or up. Okay, so that's my first one. And then I'm going to move up to one that not too many people seem to know, as I don't hear it too often, where I've got C, A, and E. So this is going to highlight a D7-9. So we start with the E there, but then we're going to move the E up again to the F sharp. And we get the D7 sound. So I have this great all over the 1 chord, and then I'm going to go to my 5, the A, and I'm going to pre-bend it. Okay, so I'm going to pre-bend the D to an E, and I've got this move here. It's E, G, and A. Okay, and then I'm just going to drop it like so, and then hammer on from the C with the E to the C sharp and E. So minor 3rd to major 3rd. So I have this and resolving on my A. So I'm just in that A chord right there. So I have this. Like so. Okay. So that's going to be over my 1 to 5. And then to get back to the 1, I'm going to do kind of like a Ralph Mooneyism where I go. So I'm looking at this D chord here. Gotta wipe my finger off. If you weren't with me earlier, I cut my finger. I'm bleeding all over the guitar. So I've got the D here, and I'm gonna play this top part of the chord like so, And I'm going to play A, D, E, D, and then grab the E and A on the second and first string, and hammer on with my pinky to the F sharp. So I have like so. So I have this second half of my intro or my short solo that kind of emulating more of a steel guitar in the style of Hamlet or Ralphy Mooney. I've got and that's going to be the full solo. All right, so all of these little pieces that I showed you, I cover in Music Theory for the Country Guitarist Part 1 and Part 2. So if you want to go into more depth, as I do in those courses, and expand those ideas, as well as just checking out the courses of the particular guitarists I've covered, like Roy Nichols, James Burton, Don Rich, and my Emulating the Pedal Steel guitar course, which is taking a look at Ralph Mooney, Tom Brunley, Lloyd Green, and Norm Hamlet. That's how I would get these sounds into your playing, by kind of studying that, using what I've provided there. So altogether, our solos so far, we've got over the D chord, major, minor, flat 7, major, flat 7, pedal steel stuff, and finishing it off. Okay, so that's going to be our full solo. And I'll play it one more time with kind of backing track, and then I highly recommend checking out those courses if you want more of the stuff into your playing. And I'll see you on a future live lesson taking a look at the Nashville Sound. Another again with the variation. All right. I hope you can riff off some of those ideas, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Thank you.